we're based in Berkeley, California. And as Sarah said, we're part of actually a large consultant team that was selected by the EPA. So there are a number of different consulting firms that are on the team focusing on different tools. And the tool that strategic economics is responsible for in this round is the fiscal and economic health tool. So I'm going to first go through tonight's agenda. The first thing, you may not have been expecting a test, but we will be having a pop quiz, and it's short and we won't be grading anybody, but that will be the first thing that we do. Then I will go through a pretty short presentation on fiscal and economic health, the issues that we're talking about, and we'll go into discussion. At the end of the presentation, I'll also talk about the next steps, what we are doing in our time here in Lake Worth. So, pop quiz. Does anybody recognize this tropical island? Let's do it with a raise of hands, maybe, if we do, if you would. Is it the set of Lost? I guess that would be Hawaii. Is it Cuba? Or is it Snook Island? Okay, so we'll be coming back to this theme a few times throughout this presentation and tomorrow when we work with the staff a little bit more. But we're talking a lot about the assets that Lake Worth already has, and we were really impressed by the work that's been done with this area. We went there today for the first time and saw it, but we also saw the information on the website that the work that happened with the county, with the Parks and Recreation Department on that. And it looks like it was a fairly large partnership, bringing in different sources of funding, and has resulted in a significant asset. Don't worry, there are only 3 questions. The next one is, how much is the homestead exemption for primary residents of Florida? Does everybody in this room know what the homestead exemption is?
Yes.
I assume that. Okay. Is
25,000.
it 25?
50 for me because I'm over 65.
Right. 50,000. So, and did anybody vote? Does everybody know that it's 50,000? Okay, but not for everybody, right? You have to qualify for different levels.
Yeah.
So, what does this mean for Lake Worth? How much property tax does the city receive from an average home?
Not enough.
20%.
Is it $130? Is it $515? Or is it $1,200? And this is the annual.
Goes between A and C. A on the west side, C on the east side.
I mean, for sure, it obviously differs across the property value spectrum, but for a typical home in Lake Worth, which is valued at around, these numbers are based on 2010, so I think the value may have changed a little bit in the last couple of years, but our understanding is at that time in 2010, the average value was around 65 to 70, and the amount of property tax that the city received, the city portion was $130.
And you said the average was 70,000?
Yeah, around, yeah, it's 68
about right,
or 69 in 2010.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So that one may have been the only surprise that we're up with. A healthy economy contributes to fiscal health, and fiscal health can in turn contribute to a healthy economy. So we have found in the research we've done, in the analysis we've done, and also done by other people, that many costs and revenues are directly linked to development. The way that you grow, the land uses that you have contribute to costs and revenues. Factors that contribute to this is, where has development occurred? What type? Is it single family housing? Is it retail? Is it office, industrial? The real estate market obviously contributes to that, as we talked about. The median home value contributes to property tax revenue in the real estate market contributes to that. How are you growing? Are you growing? Is the population going up or declining? And also, what types of infrastructure and services are required to serve new development if you are growing? Is there capacity within the existing infrastructure system, or does that need to be expanded? And in turn, who pays for that if infrastructure does need to be expanded? And so many of these factors are things that a city can influence and plays a role in. But there are other factors that a city doesn't necessarily have control over. So some of these are county and state policies. The homestead exemption is an example of a state policy that was passed. Cities are not able to change that. Of course, our recent national and global economy resulted in this graph to the right here where housing values in all these different markets declined very significantly. Inflation is another important and significant factor. Some costs borne by cities are, you can cut them. A city is able to control some costs. Other costs, such as pension obligations, may be tied to inflation or other factors that are beyond a city's control. After some decisions are made, it may go then beyond the city's control to control that. So what does smart growth have to do with this? We have a long list of, it's a definition that's actually provided by the EPA, but basically, to sum it up, it's a mix of land uses and housing types in compact, walkable neighborhoods. So you can read that at your leisure, but what does this mean for what we're talking about? When we think about smart growth and how it impacts fiscal health, we are thinking about these issues. What a city can do: build on existing assets, target private investments, or try and direct private investments or development to desired locations, allow growth to happen where you want it to happen, and also make strategic short-term decisions with the long-term in mind. So by this, we are referring to, you may have some long-term goals, but some short-term opportunities become available. So keep in mind, build on previous efforts and public investments, build capacity and a track record for getting things done, and take advantage of available funding or other opportunities that may come your way as they become available, if they're consistent with your long-term goals and vision for the community. I'm going to go through some of the fiscal and economic benefits that are associated with the type of development we're discussing, and this draws on some examples from some other communities. And these examples are really, they're ideas to sort of begin a discussion. They're things that other communities have done that have worked in other places. Some of them maybe weren't. 1970, population declined by 17%. You can see a little bump here in the chart where they annexed a bunch of land, so their population actually went up when they annexed in some populated areas, but then they started to decline again even after that. So they lost another 10% of the population during the 1980s. During the 1980s, they also lost 28% in manufacturing employment. And in 1969, they had the dubious honor of having the dirtiest air in the country. So Chattanooga is a really good example of economic revitalization through investing in the poor. And it's also a very good example of partnerships, about bringing in a lot of different actors into making changes. So beginning in the 1980s, public and private investments were made in the downtown. So this was the city, this was private foundations, and a lot of partners that actually made incremental investments in different projects in the downtown. In the waterfront, in parks, in school, and in some major, actually, local attractions, an aquarium, a stadium. And the outcomes have been significant. They have had residential population gains, and they've also diversified their economic base. So instead of being a primarily manufacturing economy, they now have finance, insurance, higher ed, and tourism as some prime employers. So we have some other examples of this type of incremental improvements that can be made. We went through Delray Beach last night and took some photos of some of the investments that they're making focused on the Arts District, Pineapple Grove, but we've heard that a lot of communities in Florida have made similar efforts, Pompano Beach, West Palm, Stewart. And those types of incremental improvements include code enforcement. My understanding is that was a significant part of the effort in Delray Beach. Increased police presence in the downtown, parcel assembly, making small loans and grants to small businesses, subsidizing improvements to existing buildings just so the downtown looks a little nicer. And then also making public investments in sidewalks, streetscape, arts, and community-based improvements. We call this type of improvements in this bottom bullet placemaking. And so these are the kinds of things that make a place feel really nice. That sidewalks make it feel like a community that you can walk around and hang around in, public spaces that are enjoyable to be in. These are other economic benefits of smart growth. So we've gone through some of the, again, the fiscal and economic benefits that may accrue to the city or that on a more municipal scale, but these are those that accrue to the wider community. Again, increased physical activity. If you have a walkable neighborhood, people get out and walk. So increased physical activity, which then results in reduced public health costs, reduced congestion, transportation costs, and it has been shown that reduced congestion and transportation costs actually increases productivity. People show up to work on time and are able to be more productive because they are not stuck in traffic. It improves access to jobs and education for the residents, and it can reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. And then these examples here are actually from, well, this one on the left is from Portland, and it shows that people who live in urban environments walk more and drive less, which may seem obvious, but the numbers are pretty significant. In the least urban places, people spend, 70 minutes in a car and very little. It looks like less than 5 minutes walking. In the most urban places, they spend less than 40 minutes in a car and about 10 minutes walking. So actually the overall transportation time can be less in those cases. So how to do this? How to grow smarter to improve fiscal and economic health? One tool that cities use is to look at fiscal impacts as one component of land use planning. So when you're considering how to develop or trying to evaluate potential projects, looking at the projected fiscal impacts of those projects. So this example is from Champaign, Illinois, and as part of their 2011 comprehensive plan process, they did a very comprehensive impact analysis. First, looking at development scenarios, looking at the location of potential growth, where and how should we grow, and then looking at the cost of land use. So how different types of land use contribute to fiscal impacts. And they found that location matters. So when they looked at where growth was proposed, could be proposed for to occur, this chart on the right shows the annual average net fiscal impact by projected growth. So anything that's pointing down is negative, and anything that's pointing up is positive. The most positive area, the area that they found that growth would have a net positive impact on the municipal finances, is this area in the middle, which is their infill development area. And most of the other areas were found to have a net negative fiscal impact. And a lot of this was driven by infrastructure costs, because they had to extend the sewer and other infrastructure out to these outlying areas. Over time, it was shown that those areas would typically have a negative impact. They also found that not all land uses, not all types of growth pay for themselves. So this is a second analysis that they did, a cost of land use analysis, where they estimated the annual net fiscal impact of different types of residential land uses and non-residential land uses. So here on the left, we have the annual net result for residential prototypes. And I bet these words are pretty small, but over, again, the middle line on this left chart is 0, and anything that's pointing up is a net positive impact, and anything pointing down is negative. The only two types of residential development that they found had a net positive fiscal impact, or what people might say, pay for themselves. The revenues that are generated by that land use cover the cost, and then maybe a little bit more. They had two types of residential development that did that. One is single family, detached, high price point. So basically luxury single family homes. And the other type is downtown apartments. So single family, detached, medium price point, single family, detached, low price point, and then apartments that actually occurred on the fringe were all a net negative fiscal impact for Champaign. On the other chart, it shows the similar impacts for non-residential land uses. So here we have office, retail big box, retail neighborhood, industrial, and healthcare clinic are these examples. And for non-residential land uses, they found that the only two types that have a net positive fiscal impact were the retail, and that is the bigger block is actually retail big box, and that medium-sized block is neighborhood retail.
Can you
So, I mean, what is this?
Can you say again on the left-hand side there, the two places that are above the